Good evening, and I hope that you are having a very, very Merry Christmas. Now, to start with, over in the state of Ohio, a new bill has just been signed into law which will protect babies who were born despite a doctor's attempt to abort them. Meanwhile, the definition of what it means to be fully vaccinated is really changing here in America. That's because new regulations are going into place across the entire country in places like schools, restaurants, hospitals, even opera houses, and so on, which are now requiring people to show proof of having gotten a booster shot in order to either work there or even to enter the premises. And the state of New York, well, they might be even taking it a step further because they have a new bill that's currently working its way through the state legislature, which would allow the government to place people that they deem to be threats to public health into indefinite detention. Let's go through it all together. This is your daily Facts Matter update, and I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. And now let's begin today's discussion over in New York, where the definition of being fully vaccinated is really beginning to shift. How? Well, just yesterday, a restaurant group, which has over 18 different locations, they announced that they will be requiring both their employees as well as their customers to have gotten a booster vaccine shot as a prerequisite for stepping through the door. Let me just repeat that. Here in New York City, where we filmed the show, where, by the way, we already have some of the strictest vaccine mandate policies in the entire country. You quite literally have to show a vax card in order to enter any kind of a restaurant. Well, this restaurant chain is saying that that's not enough. Instead, they will be requiring both their employees as well as their patrons to show proof that they have received a booster shot as well. Now, the restaurant group in question here, it's called the Union Square Hospitality Group, and they have 18 different locations throughout the city, most of them being rather upscale places. And here's what the owner of that restaurant group said during an interview on CNBC. At this point, the science has changed. What has been a little bit tougher has been watching this crushing wave of Omicron sweeping through New York City and certainly through the country. And if you've been following the developments surrounding the vaccine mandates throughout America, then you likely know that this restaurant chain is not alone. In fact, just a few days ago, here is what Gavin Newsom, who is of course California's governor, he's a Democrat, here's what he sent out via Twitter. California will require healthcare workers to get their booster. With Omicron on the rise, we're taking immediate actions to protect Californians and ensure our hospitals are prepared. And with that, California became the second state in the nation, right after New Mexico, to require that their healthcare workers get the booster shot. Likewise, there are numerous colleges and universities across the country right now which are also requiring that their staff members, their faculty, as well as their students get the booster shots. These are schools like Harvard, Dartmouth, Princeton, Stanford, Yale, MIT, Northwestern, Columbia, Amherst, Emory, Georgetown, NYU, and so on. There are many, many different schools throughout the country. And think about it. If it continues at this rate, and let's say you are a freshman this year, well, who knows how many shots you'll be required to take before you actually graduate. In your first year alone, you've already been mandated to take 3. And besides schools, there are other businesses that are getting into the booster mandate game as well. For instance, according to a press release which came out just last week, all performers, all staff members, as well as all the audience members who would like to attend the New York Metropolitan Opera, they will have to show evidence that they've received a booster shot prior to entering the building or attending a performance. Here's in fact what that particular press release said when it came out. Starting January the 17th, entry to the Met will be restricted to those who have received the booster shot, if eligible. Those not yet eligible will be able to continue to enter, but must receive the booster shot shortly after they become eligible. And likewise, Bill de Blasio, who is the mayor of New York, he's a Democrat, although he has only about 2 weeks left in his tenure, he publicly came out and said that he is considering mandating booster shots for all city workers. Now, if you are looking at all this and you're thinking to yourself, you know what, I'm just considering getting a fake vaccine document. Well, you better think twice, especially here in the state of New York. That's because just yesterday, the governor of New York, she signed a new bill into law which officially criminalized having a fake vaccine COVID card. The new bill, which is referred to as the Truth in Vaccination Law, it goes into effect immediately, and it makes it a Class D felony to falsify COVID vaccine records. And for your reference, by the way, a nonviolent Class D felony, it's punishable from anywhere between no jail time with probation all the way up to punishment of 7 years in jail. Here's what Kathy Hochul, who is again New York's governor, she is a Democrat, here's what she said in regards to this new law. Individuals who misrepresent their vaccination history not only jeopardize their own health, but the health of all those they come into contact with. This legislation ensures that as New York opens up and many businesses choose to rely on checking vaccination status, the falsification of vaccination records will not be tolerated. Although, frankly, in that statement, when she references that businesses are choosing to check vaccination records, that is a little bit comical here in the city of New York, where businesses don't have a choice. Regardless, though, it is worth noting that this is not the only piece of legislation that is currently being pushed here in New York to curb what they're referring to as threats to public health. That's because at this very moment, there is another bill that's working its way through the New York legislature that, if it actually passes, would grant permission to the New York state government to place unvaccinated individuals into indefinite detention. All right, so I actually spent some time combing through this bill myself. By the way, it's called Bill A416. And I can honestly tell you that, just in my opinion, this is the most uncanny, you can even say crazy bill that at least I've ever read. That's just my opinion. Let's go through the bill itself and you tell me what you think. You can leave your comments in the description box below. So this is what the bill says, quote, upon determining by clear and convincing evidence that the health of others is or may be endangered by a case, contact, or carrier, or suspected case, contact, or carrier of a contagious disease that, in the opinion of the governor, after consultation with the commissioner, may pose an imminent and significant threat to the public health, resulting in severe morbidity or high mortality. Now, by the way, just here for a moment, I want to pause. So what it's saying is that based on the opinion of the governor, if you as an individual, as a case, or if somebody you had contact with, or even if, this is a scenario, if you are suspected of being a, let's say, a contagious person of some disease, it doesn't even mention COVID, of some disease, and you made contact with somebody, both of you are now subject to what comes next. So here's what comes next, quote, the governor or his or her delegee, including but not limited to the commissioner or the heads of local health departments, may order the removal and or detention of such a person or a group of such persons by issuing a single order identifying such persons either by name or by a reasonably specific description of the individuals or group being detained. Now, again, I just want to pause here for a quick moment. This is some really dystopian stuff, at least in my opinion, because based on the opinion of the governor, what they can do, he or she, whoever is the governor at the time, they can say that, hey, John Doe over there, or a group of people, like let's say unvaccinated individuals, they can be detained and sent, and this is where it says that they can be sent to, quote, such person or group of persons shall be detained in a medical facility or other appropriate facility or premises designated by the governor or his or her delegee and complying with subdivision 5 of this section. And so essentially what this says is that if in the opinion of the governor, you are someone who poses a health threat to the community, to the state, they can lock you away. They can lock you away. And this is what's interesting here, because the way that they worded it is purposely vague. They said that the person can be put away in a medical facility or other appropriate facility or premise. Now, what does that mean? That is not exactly clear. However, I will tell you this, that when I was reading this, I got very Executive Order 9066 vibes from this. If you know what Executive Order 9066 was, it was what President Roosevelt used to set up relocation camps for the Japanese during World War II. And in that order, if you read it, it said something along the lines of if you are a person who is deemed to be a threat to national security, you're going to be moved to an inland relocation center. So you see how the kind of language is very opaque there. It's very vague. It doesn't say exactly what it is. It doesn't necessarily outline exactly who it is. And it doesn't say exactly, that it's an internment camp or a concentration camp. It's called a relocation center. And likewise with this bill, that's the kind of language that they are using. And this is the exact language that would allow the governor to issue an emergency decree and have people who are unvaccinated, because that is a group that's easily defined. So you can say people who have not received the COVID vaccine, they need to be taken and they need to be put into one of these medical facilities. And then this is what it goes on to say can be done to those people once they are in the medical facility. Quote, the bill will require an individual who has been exposed to or infected by a contagious disease to complete an appropriate prescribed course of treatment, preventative medication, or vaccination. Essentially, this would give the government the right to detain anybody they want and to forcibly vaccinate them or give them any other kind of what was it called? Prescribed course of treatment that they wish or that they believe is the right course of treatment to give to them. Now, there is something worth noting here, which is that in theory, if you go on to actually read the text of the law or the bill, I'll throw it in the description box below so you can actually do it for yourself. It does go on to say that no one shall be held for more than 60 days. But the actual language, if you go through it point by point, it says that it allows the court to issue a court order to waive the maximum detention time of 60 days. And so after 60 days, the court is allowed an additional 90 days to consider the detention of that individual, which is a cycle that can, in theory, go on indefinitely at the opinion of the health department. Furthermore, the actual text of the bill itself, it doesn't make any mention to COVID. And so in theory, it can apply to any contagious diseases such as HIV, AIDS, hepatitis, you name it, or what might ever come next. And so this bill is going to be voted on in the next legislative session, which begins on January the 5th. The actual vote date has not yet been set. However, if you would like to read the text of this bill, again, it's called A416. I'll throw a link to the PDF version of it into the description box below this video for you to check out. And now let's head on back to the studio. If you'd like to read more about these new booster requirements that are popping up across the entire country, or about this new bill in New York, which would allow for indefinite detention of those who are a threat to public health, I'll throw the links to all those articles into the description box below this video for you to check out. And all I ask in return is that you take a super quick moment to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And now, let's move on over to Ohio, where a new bill has just been signed into law, which will protect babies who were born despite a doctor's attempt to abort them. What happened there? Sorry, what's this? Well, that's a great question, Roman, and it is today's sponsor, which is an awesome messaging and email service provider called Secure. And it's awesome if you're the type of person that actually cares about their privacy. Because, I mean, it's no big secret that these big tech companies are mining and remining our data all the time. In fact, in the year 2020, it was found that over 155 million Americans, likely including you and me, have suffered some form of data breach. And by the way, that's only what's publicly known. However, what's happened in the past, well, that can stay in the past because with Secure, your data and your messages can remain private. And that's because Secure has all of their data centers located over in Switzerland rather than in the US or in China. And the reason that's so important is that Switzerland has some of the strictest data privacy laws in the entire world, and they are not subject to the intrusive Cloud Act. And if you want to know what the Cloud Act is, head on over to secure.com and watch their video on the homepage or on the video tutorials page, which is under their support section. Now, the thing that I personally love the most about the Secure app is the privacy aspect of it. They don't mine my data. They don't mine my phone number. They don't mine the phone numbers or data of my friends and family who I chat with. But best of all is that if your friends and family don't actually use the Secure app themselves, it doesn't matter. Because the way that it works is that when you use their Secure Send email technology, all of your emails and your messages route to Switzerland, and then the recipient can reply using their Secure Reply technology, and so everything remains private no matter what. And the same actually goes for their messaging app as well. And they're always coming up with new features. In fact, the most recent one they told me about, they sent me an email here, was that they're coming up with a new feature called Text to Chat by Invite. So they're an innovative company, and they really do care about your privacy. And so what they're doing doesn't work with your existing big tech email account. So check them out. You can head on over to secure.com. I'll throw the link into the description box below. And when you use promo code ROMAN, you can get 25% off. And the rates are not even that expensive to start with, by the way. It's only $5 for the messenger and $10 for the email and messenger combo. And they even offer a 7-day free trial. So head on over to their website. Again, it'll be linked in the description box below. Use promo code ROMAN to save some money. And now, Roman in the studio, back to you. And now let's move on over to the state of Ohio. Just yesterday, the governor of Ohio, he signed a new bill into law which will criminally punish any doctor who doesn't offer medical care to babies who were born alive after an attempted abortion. That's right. This new law, it requires doctors in Ohio who perform abortions, and if they encounter a situation where they don't fully kill the baby in the abortion process, that once the baby is outside the mother's womb, they have to perform life-saving medical care on that baby, or else they will be held criminally liable for manslaughter. Now, this new law is officially called Ohio Senate Bill 157, although it is more colloquially known as the Born Alive Infant Protection Act. And according to a statement from the office of Mike DeWine, by the way, is the Republican governor of Ohio, here's what he said this new bill does. The Born Alive Infant Protection Act creates protections for children who are born alive after a failed abortion attempt. It also expands abortion manslaughter to include failing to take measures to preserve the health of a child born alive after an abortion, and creates a right of action for the affected mother to sue a person guilty of abortion manslaughter. Furthermore, this new law will also affect the actual facilities where these abortions take place. Here's again what the governor wrote on this part. The bill also creates new rules around ambulatory surgical facilities where abortions are attempting to be performed in order to ensure the health and safety of a child when born alive after an abortion. Furthermore, this new law will also require that the doctors who perform these procedures, they must report all circumstances where the baby survived the abortion attempt, and the doctors will be penalized if they fail to do so. Now, State Senator Terry Johnson, who is both a Republican as well as a sponsor of this new bill, he was quite encouraged when the governor signed it into law. Here's what he said in the statement. "Thank you, Governor DeWine, for standing up for Ohio's newborns and protecting life at its most vulnerable stage. Every child, no matter the circumstances surrounding his or her birth, deserves our compassion and care." On the flip side, however, Planned Parenthood, which is of course America's largest provider of abortion procedures, they came out in opposition to a specific provision within this new law. What that particular provision does is that it makes sure that taxpayer dollars are not either directly or even indirectly funneled into abortions. And the provision ensures this by no longer allowing doctors to work for either state-funded hospitals or for state-funded medical schools if those same doctors separately work for an abortion clinic. Essentially, what this means in practice is that any doctor who works at a state-funded medical center can no longer also work for an abortion provider. And Planned Parenthood, they objected to this provision. In fact, the director of the Ohio branch of Planned Parenthood, he released a statement saying this in part. This provision would disqualify all physicians who teach medical students or are affiliated with public hospitals and institutions from entering these contracts with abortion clinics. He further went on to say that this particular provision, it would make it harder for abortion providers to remain licensed and operational within the state of Ohio. Here's what he said. There is no medical justification for disallowing qualified, experienced physicians from agreeing to provide backup coverage for abortion providers under a variance. In fact, if the state was genuinely concerned for patient safety, such physicians would be ideal. Instead, this provision is only meant to make it more challenging for abortion providers to remain licensed and operational. However, even though Planned Parenthood is not necessarily keen on this new provision, there are other groups who actually are. For instance, the Center for Christian Virtue, which is the largest Christian public policy lobby in Ohio, they came out and suggested that this particular provision could, quote, potentially shut down 2 abortion clinics, Planned Parenthood of Southwest Ohio and Women's Med Center in Dayton, who rely on state-funded doctors for their services, which is, ironically, pretty much exactly what Planned Parenthood was saying as well. However, the Center for Christian Virtue, they continued their statement to actually say that this is a good thing. Here's what the statement continues by saying. Today, the state of Ohio has made a bold statement about where our values lie, with women, children, and families, not with the abortion industry which demeans and exploits them. The Born Alive Infant Protection Act, with all its life-affirming provisions, is a declaration that Ohio will fight back wherever we can to keep our beautiful state from becoming a dark place where the weak and helpless are discarded to serve the interests of the powerful. If you would like to read more about this new law out in Ohio, I will throw a link to both the PDF version of the law as well as an article about it into the description box below this video for you to check out. And all I ask in return is that if you haven't already, take a quick moment to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And now, since you've completed this episode of Facts Matter, I would highly recommend that you go on over to Epoch TV and check out an awesome episode of Counterpunch with Trevor Loudon, where Trevor explores the question of whether the Chinese Communist Party is the one who is orchestrating these new global wave of COVID lockdowns. Here's a trailer for that awesome episode.
Today's show will be, I believe, one of the most important I've ever done. This show focuses on the United Kingdom, Britain, but it's applicable all over the world. I have a theory. I believe that the wave of lockdowns we are seeing in the world because of COVID-19, the China virus, I believe the new wave that is coming are being orchestrated by the Communist Party of China. It is clear by now that enforced lockdowns have very little to do with public health. The question is who benefits from them. I believe the real beneficiary of all of this is the Communist Party of China. The Communist Party of China will continue to push lockdowns until the West collapses, till we have a general economic meltdown.
If you want to check out that great episode as well as all the other phenomenal content over on Epoch TV, I'll throw a link to it. It'll be right there at the very top of the description box. I hope you click on it. I hope you check it out. I hope you subscribe. And I hope that you join us on this journey of exploring this beautiful, beautiful world through honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. Now, lastly, if you haven't already, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, in order to get this type of honest news content delivered directly into your YouTube feed while YouTube still allows it. Also, consider hitting that notification bell so you can actually be notified of any new videos as we release them. Also, if you have a Telegram account, consider following us at factsmatter_Roman. We'll publish the links to all of our videos, so in case anything ever happens here on YouTube, you can always find our links there. And then lastly, I would like to again wish you a very Merry Christmas from both myself as well as everyone here at the Epoch Times. Until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed and stay free.